What is up, and welcome to the 49ers Camelot Show. I'm excited to have you. And look, I'm always going to do my best to bring you the elite guests and the legendary guests. And I have the legendary Nick Winkler on today. Nick, what is up?
Mark, man, thanks for having me. Legendary, I love it. I'm gonna change my handle. Legendary Bay Area Wink. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, here's the reason I say that. You are a weekly contributor to the Locked On 49ers podcast. You're not a weak contributor. You're a great contributor. But earlier in the year, I had Oscar Aparicio from the Better Rivals podcast, and I called him the OG of 49ers content creators. But you and Brian had the Gold Faithful podcast back then when those guys were doing the Better Rivals podcast. So what's it like being a Bay Area legend?
It was a lot of fun, to get this thing started with Brian way back in the day. We were coworkers at Total Traffic Network, just reporting traffic and sports and, just having a whole lot of fun. And actually, our very first podcast was a fantasy baseball podcast, if you believe that, because we were in a fantasy baseball league together with a bunch of guys, and we still have that league going. But it just kind of started as that. And we're like 4 or 5 shows in, and we're like, you know what? We both love the 49ers. Like, why don't we really just focus on something that we're truly passionate about that we could talk about ad nauseum? Like I could talk about the 49ers in my sleep. So that just sparked Gold Faithful and led to Locked On 49ers. And here we all are.
That is so cool. I listened to y'all. Gosh, what year did you start? Do you remember?
Oh, gosh, 2014, maybe. I mean, it's been a long time. I mean, maybe it was 2015, but it was way back in the day. I think my daughter was just born. So it was 2014, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah, because I don't know if I started listening then, but it had to have been right after that, because I think I'd been listening to y'all a few years, and then you made the shift over to Locked On 49ers. And I actually remember, I still remember, I'm thinking that was 2017. And I just because I actually remember where I was going when I first heard about that, and so that was a really cool time that y'all did that back then. So thanks for the many years of being great content creators for the 49ers.
Hey, thanks for listening, Mark. That's why we do it, right? I mean, we do it because we love talking, and we love talking 49ers. And the reason I listen to so many podcasts, including yours, it's one of those things where I want as much as I can handle, right? I just, like, if something's going on in my ears, it's either going to be Giants baseball game today, or it's going to be 49ers, content creators out there talking about it. So you keep doing it too, Mark, man. We appreciate it. We love having everybody out there. It helps to have a lot of voices too, coming from a lot of different angles. And really, because there's a lot of people out there that sour on the 49ers. There's people that root against 49ers. Like, I don't understand that. I'm not that guy. You're never going to get that from me. I'm not going to be like, I like that guy, I don't like that guy. Well, the only way I'm not going to like a guy is if he's doing something horrible on the field. Right? If he's trash. And if he's trash, the 49ers probably aren't going to have him on the squad. So I don't even need to say anything. They know what's happening. Or obviously if he has some off-the-field issues that I don't want to deal with or mention, things like that.
Well, listen, I remember listening to y'all talk, and I mean, every time they bring you on Locked On, they always do the Nicholas Winkler come on down from The Price is Right. I'm really intrigued by this. Of course, I remember being just a little kid watching Bob Barker back in the day, especially when you'd be sick and home from school. Yeah. And then in like 2005 or something like that, I had a friend, a girl that I went to church with that actually got on the show and won the whole thing, actually won a car. Nice. And so I thought that was pretty cool. So what is your story? Like, how did you, I know that you get tickets, you show up and they handpick people out of the line, I guess. And so you must have made some kind of impression. And so when they said Nicholas Winkler, come on down, were you the guy who you made this great bid and got on, or were you the $1 over guy, or the $1? Is it under? Yeah, it's over $1 over.
I did the $1 over, and that was I was getting scared because I was one of the first names called up, and you're right. Anybody can go be in the audience, and on your way in, they do an interview. There's a producer and an assistant that just walks down. They bring you in groups, and they walk down the line, and they talk to you, and then they talk to you. And so when they got to me, I did my thing, and then they went to my wife, the next person, and then asked me another question, and I was like, oh, here we go. Like that's a good sign. And when we finished, she's like, they're totally gonna pick you. I was like, yeah, I think so too. I think that was kind of their way of telling me to be ready. So sure enough, I was one of the first people called down, and I got scared because the first half of the show I didn't get it, and so I'm in the. It's like only 6 people get called up on stage. And so I'm like, oh man, if I don't get called up and I was one of the first people, like how embarrassing is that going to be? So the first chance I had to go last on Contestants Row, I did 8:01 and it was 8:10. And it was just like, oh man, this is amazing. I did it, and Brian plays the clip sometimes of me screaming. And it's just so loud. Like, it's just like, Rah! It's just the most ridiculous sound I've ever made. But I was seriously terrified of being stuck up there the whole time.
That is so funny. So how far did you get? I've seen the clip or the picture of you at the big wheel. Is that thing as heavy as?
It's heavy. It's huge. It is giant. I was shocked when I grabbed it. And no, it's cool. I post it every once in a while on YouTube, and then they take it down after a few days. But it gets like a ridiculous amount of views every time I put it up. And then the Price is Right. It's like Nope or Viacom or whoever owns it. They take it down almost immediately. But next time I do it, I'll make sure to let you know. I do it every once in a while just for fun. But no, it's funny. I got to spin the wheel last in my turn, and a woman had 90, and I had rolled a 95, and so she. Nice. Afterwards, she was so mad at me. She came up, she like shook. It was this little old lady, and she came up and she like grabbed my shirt. She's like, you. And I was just like, I'm sorry. No, actually, I made it all the way to the Showcase Showdown, and at the time, my wife and our car had just kind of reached its tail end, so we were there just to get a car. That was the whole goal, and so I passed on a bunch of trips that my wife was not happy about later. But I'm like, we had a deal. Like the deal was to get on there and get a car. So I passed, and then it was like a pontoon boat. And I lived in San Francisco at the time. It's like, what am I gonna do with a pontoon boat? So that was a real big disappointment. But it was just a great experience all along. And I don't know if you know this too, Mark, but way back in 2000, I was actually on Wheel of Fortune as well. So I've been on 2, and I made it to the final puzzle, and I didn't get the final puzzle either. So like I'm really good at getting on game shows, getting to the end, and then blowing it. Like that's my MO.
So you're like the post Steve Young 49ers then.
There you go.
The Harbaugh
Steve finally won one. So I guess what I need. Oh yeah, no, because they won one. No, you're right. Steve was the last one to win one.
Yeah.
I feel like I was Steve Young for a long time, and I just need to get one more shot to get the monkey off my back. Right.
Right.
Okay. I got to figure out another game show to go on to complete my Steve Young journey.
Yeah, I don't know what all's out there. You could do something like Survivor or something like that, but
my wife wants me to do that, but I don't camp, so that I would not last out there. My idea of being on vacation is not being outside, and so I'd last a day or two, and I'd just be like, "No, I'm going home."
Yeah, they'd lose me when it comes to having to go to the bathroom in the woods. I think I'd be out at that point. But
or any of those eating challenges that they do. Oh, no, I couldn't stomach it.
No. Well, hey, let's talk 49ers. I could talk to you about the Price is Right for a while, but I might be like the only one that wants to do that. So let's get into that. And I want to start off with the 49ers quarterback situation and kind of get your thoughts on what you're thinking about that. Is it possible that Sam Darnold could beat out Trey Lance for that number 2 spot?
Of course it is, right? I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a high draft pick by the Jets. He was highly touted coming out of college, and he's got all the intangibles, right? You hear people saying, oh, he's the best thrower, that's ever been there. And, another fantastic performance, at practice by Darnold and this and that. And there's something about that, right? That he's got the talent, but he hasn't been able to show it in the game. Like he's had brief stints with the Jets, a few more with the Panthers, where it's like, okay, okay, I can see a little something here. Whereas Trey Lance has shown that as well. The problem with Trey Lance is he can't stay healthy. So if you're a betting man and you had to bet on who, the number 2 is going to be for most of the season, it's hard to bet against Darnold just because Trey Lance has never shown that he can stay healthy in the NFL, right? I mean, Brock Purdy is going to come back most likely, hopefully by the start of the season. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the 49ers. And Sam Darnold, if you get the system, that's it too. I mean, Kyle Shanahan runs a really tricky system. It's all about knowing where your guys are going to be before they get there, knowing what the defense is going to do because you set them up in a play earlier in the game. And here we are, a quarter later, we're going to run that same play. We know what they're going to do now. Right. So can Sam Darnold process all that? Can he figure all that out? If he can show Kyle, that's his thing, I don't see why he couldn't. I mean, I'm not rooting for it. I'm not rooting against any 49er. If Trey Lance is the quarterback, he's my quarterback. And I'll start crying T.O. That's my quarterback. I'll start doing it if you need me to do it, because I'm not a guy who's going to root against anybody. If it's Purdy, let's go Purdy. If it's Sam Darnold, let's go Darnold.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that it seems that Kyle Shanahan has been really high on Sam Darnold for quite some time. I think it goes back to the draft, the year that Darnold was taken. So if the coach is really high on a guy, and you know how these coaches are, they all think that, look, I can take this guy who so far looks like a bust, and I can make him into the next Joe Montana. That's how they all think. And so because I've been the one, I write for 49ers Web Zone, and I've been writing all along that Trey Lance is going to ultimately be the guy. Maybe Brock Purdy will be for the first year or so, but Trey Lance is the long-term guy. And when they brought in Sam Darnold, I was like, no way he's beating out Trey Lance. But then when you continue to hear things that it seems like the 49ers are leaking, even though they don't leak, it seems like they're letting some things out that makes you believe that they're higher on Sam Darnold than I at least initially thought.
Yeah, I mean, they give him a pretty big contract, right? I mean, that's not what you give third-string quarterbacks. So to me, the leaks might have, there's always the person inside of me that's crying out conspiracy, right? They're up to something. They're doing something. And maybe they are, hyping up Darnold because they want to trade him. Because they're like, we probably can't, Purdy's coming along great. We kind of signed Darnold as that kind of emergency net. Now he's coming along great. We know he'll be there. We've got Lance. Like, maybe we can get something for Darnold and not have to pay that, $3.5 million or whatever it is. Or maybe they really do love Darnold and they think they can get something for Trey Lance. I mean, there's going to be some movement, I believe, in 49ers quarterback group. I don't think they're going to start the season with all three of those guys. I'd be surprised if they did, because, and now they're like, oh, Brandon Allen. Oh, he's the next coming. He's the next Brock Purdy. It's like, okay, all right, bump the brakes a little bit, guys. This is just practice. And that's really where it's tricky too, is, this is just practice. So, we drool over a couple of bits of film that we could see because we're football fans, right? We love football. We want to see as much football as we can. So when we see one thing, it's like, all right, let's break down every single step, every single motion. Hey, where did his hand end up? How many fingers did he have on the ball? All the stuff we can do, Mark, because that's what we do and we love it. And so I'm with you. I think that Trey Lance is going to be a great quarterback in the NFL. I really do believe that. Is he going to be with the 49ers? I hope so. But that being said, maybe Brock Purdy's going to be a great quarterback too. So, hopefully that's with the 49ers. So it's a fine line that the 49ers need to walk here too, because, they don't want to be wrong. They gave up a lot to go get Trey Lance. And so if they give him away for like a third-round draft pick or something, that's admitting, that, wow, guys, we really messed up on that one. We really did a swing and miss there. But then again, you don't want to give up on Purdy, a guy who looked amazing, in his rookie season. So they're in a tough spot. That's for sure.
I've said multiple times, and I've written multiple times, that if Trey Lance is indeed a bust, and I think that it's way too early to label him as such, but if he does turn into a bust, I think that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch can survive that, especially if Brock Purdy is good. But what I'm not sure that they can survive is if they let him go, if they trade Trey Lance, and then he becomes a star for somebody else and Brock Purdy fizzles. Then I think that they're really in trouble at that point.
Yeah.
What
I think you're right, Mark.
Yeah. What do you
That's
feel
tough.
like? do you feel like Trey's gotten a fair chance? Because when you look back at his rookie season, he was hurt and
Mhm.
playing with this finger that now they're saying he wasn't even able to put it on the ball. And like, I can't imagine throwing a ball with only 4 fingers. And then you go into the Chicago game last year, he still is dealing with issues from that finger. Then, of course, there's the horrible rainstorm. His team's not playing well. Deebo Samuel fumbled inside the red zone on the opening drive. And so, do you feel like he's gotten a fair shake? Sometimes it feels like he hasn't, but then at the same time, as you said, he can't seem to stay healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I think the 49ers have given him every opportunity, right? I mean, he was the first, he got the start last year. They basically were like, bye, Jimmy, we're going with Trey Lance. Like, let's go. And he got the chance and he couldn't stay healthy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
same as his rookie year. Like, they put him out there and he got hurt. So it's like, how many times can you keep doing the same thing and expect different results? I mean,
Yeah.
I hope it's a fluke. I hope, that he does get to play some games this year and he does prove that he's a good quarterback and that he can stay healthy, because I know the 49ers want it to happen. They do. They want Trey Lance to be the guy. They gave up a bunch to go get him. Kyle has vision, right? He knows what he wants to do with Trey Lance, and it's a lot different than what he can do with Brock Purdy. They have very different talents. They have very different skill sets. And I'm sure Kyle has, this is my Trey Lance book, and this is my Purdy. And I'm sure he's also got a Sam Darnold book over here too now, because he knows what his guys can do. And I mean, look what he did with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? I mean, This is a guy who played a couple games for the Patriots, came over and led a team to a Super Bowl, right? And then what he did with Brock Purdy, and what he could do with Trey Lance. Like, Kyle Shanahan gets it. He understands offenses. He understands what his guys can and can't do. And so I really hope Trey Lance does get a shot, but I'm with you, Mark. I'm not sure he's been given a fair shot just because he can't stay on the field. I mean, if he can, if he was getting pulled because he threw a couple picks, then I'd be here saying, no, the Niners are being way too quick on this. They're pulling the string way too fast. This kid needs time to learn, because he hasn't played much football. He had really one season in college, right? I mean, you got to get out there and actually play ball, and it's a different speed in the NFL than it is in college. So I hope he does. I hope they don't give up on him, Mark. I'm with you. I think he could be fantastic, and you really don't want to see him go be fantastic somewhere else. That would really hurt.
Yeah, that would. I mean, you mentioned how Kyle Shanahan is so good at bringing out the best in quarterbacks. I mean, you only need to look at Nick Mullins and what he was able to do with him for a while. And Nick Mullins is not really that good. So,
no.
So speaking of quarterbacks that had elbow injuries, do you think, because the 49ers, again, the fact that there are guys like Matt Mayoko who are starting to say, look, things are going really well. If they continue the way they're going, then there's a really good chance that Brock Purdy could start week 1. Do you think that's possible? I've been on the train of there's no way that he's going to be ready week 1, but I don't know anything about medical stuff.
Right.
So
I don't know much about the medical stuff either, Mark. I'll be completely honest with you, but my gut tells me that he's probably not going to start week 1. I think that also kind of gives you that showcase, right, where you can put Lance out there and really, give him a game or two and let Purdy really take his time. You don't want to rush him back. It's a long season. You play 17 games now, and the 49ers haven't been able to keep their quarterbacks healthy all season. Like, it just doesn't happen. I mean, and a lot of teams around the NFL, it doesn't happen either. It's not just a 49er thing. I mean, it seems that way as a 49er fan. But it's not the case. It's a dangerous game, and guys get hurt. So to rush Purdy back, I think wouldn't be prudent. I don't think that's a smart move by the 49ers. So I would be surprised if he starts week 1. I think it's going to be Trey Lance's job at least week 1, maybe even into week 2. And then if he really shines, and you got yourself a little bit of a quarterback controversy, right? So I don't know. And that's another reason why maybe the 49ers do want to rush him out there week 1, is because they don't want to find themselves in that situation week 2 or week 3. If Trey Lance has gone out and really been a stud, and all of a sudden you're like, well, Brock Purdy already showed that he's a stud. He led us to an NFC Championship game, and we're just going to go ahead and ditch the guy now because Trey Lance is playing well. So it's a tough spot for them to be in. But if I had to put my money right now on week 1 starter, I would say it's going to be Trey Lance.
Yeah. And that's probably, I'm in the same boat. If I was going to lay a claim on who's going to be the week one starter, that would be my guess as well. Now, here's the thing. I think that opening game in Pittsburgh against that really good defense that gets after the quarterback, and Mike Tomlin, who always has his team ready. And I think I heard somebody mention that the Steelers have won, gosh, what was it? I can't remember how many consecutive opening games, like several. It was several in a row. I believe that is what I heard. And so I don't think that the 49ers will be favored to win that game, but that is far from a gimme. I think that if Trey Lance is the starter, then maybe they let him start because they know that's going to be a tough game. If not, that could end Brock Purdy's undefeated regular season streak. Have you given any thought to that game and what that might look like?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, anytime you play the Pittsburgh Steelers, that defense is going to get after it. And you're starting on the road. This is the third straight year that the Niners have had to start on the road, not just on the road, but in that 10 o'clock Pacific time start, right? So that's tough for them. It's tricky. I mean, they're obviously going to be ready for it. They're going to get there well in advance. That is what the 49ers do. They're going to get out there. But it's also – it takes me right back to what we just talked about, Mark. And is it a fair shot? Do you throw Trey Lance out there because you know that it's a good defense and you don't want to get Brock Purdy hurt? But then are you just going to go get Trey Lance hurt? Like, is that another spot where people can then say, like, what the heck's going on? You're not giving our guy Lance a shot because, you keep throwing him out there and, just don't run him up the middle. I guess that's really what I don't want to see. Any more designed play runs up the middle for Trey Lance. But that's going to be a tough game. I definitely think the 49ers can win that football game because, you're looking at a team that's still going to, most likely have a Deebo Samuel who's going to be, recharged, rejuvenated, coming off his awful season last year. You're still going to have Kittle. You're still going to have Ayuk. You're still going to have Christian McCaffrey for a whole season, hopefully. So, this is a team that's designed to win now. And it's going to be a tough spot for them to start on the road like that. I think the NFL kind of did them a little bit dirty with that game in Pittsburgh, after what happened to them, how their season ended. It's like, oh, yeah, well, while you're down, we're going to kick you a little bit and give you the Steelers in Pittsburgh. 10 a.m. start time's fine, right?
And they usually start off slow anyway. So Crazy Juice said, well, the only way Trey could learn is by getting playtime. Yeah, that is, and then he corrected, 100%. Getting playtime. Yeah. That's true, that the only way that he's going to get better is to play. And Brock Purdy got that chance. And so it would be great to see Trey get that chance. Let's talk about the minicamp because they just finished on Tuesday and Wednesday with the mandatory minicamp. Did you see any reports or anything that jumped out to you that you thought is promising or discouraging or, hey, look at that? Anything that jumped out?
Everything has been so quarterback centric, right? I mean, everything that's been coming out of there has just been Darnold this and Lance that, and, this and that. And to me, that's very promising. That's very much like I'd rather have two really good quarterbacks back there than one guy just being like, oh, he was 2 for 17 today. I want to see these guys push each other. There's the whole iron sharpens iron thing that's been the 49ers motto for a few years now. And I really like that, and it's really good to see a lot of these young guys, second year guys, rookies out there really putting the juice on. And one of the guys I really think the 49ers need to step up this season and really, really play well is Diamante Lenore. Like, I really think he is a big placeholder for that other cornerback spot, right? I mean, I hope that he takes it and it's his for years to come. But I think he's going to get the first shot at it because kind of what we saw towards the end of the year and how he played in the postseason. I think he played really well. We know Charvarius Ward's going to hold down one side, and so then it's like who else is going to step up out there? So I saw something today just came out and it showed Ward. It showed Lenore getting in there and breaking up a Sam Darnold pass, almost picking it. And so it's like, all right, there you go, Lenore, keep it going. You're a guy I have an eye on all throughout spring training or through training camp and into the exhibition season. And he'll probably be out there starting week 1.
Yeah, he really did come up big. In fact, there were some games down the stretch that I felt like he was better than Charvarius Ward. Because Charvarius Ward went through a little spell last year where he wasn't as good. I don't know if he was dinged up a little bit, but yeah, that's a great one to watch. I don't know if you saw in that video where Lenore broke up that pass. He almost picked off the pass from Sam Darnold. Did you see where somebody? I don't remember who it was, or I'd give them credit, but somebody paused the video and then did a screenshot where he's just dropped the ball and you see Brandon Ayuk looking back at Darnold in disgust. It's pretty funny.
I did not see that, but there's another guy that I expect great things from this season, Brandon Ayuk. I mean, and especially if Brock Purdy is the quarterback. I mean, he really woke up when Purdy took over that quarterback position. He liked him. You could see it. His first thing wasn't there. Okay, I'm looking for Ayuk. Because Ayuk and Ayuk went up and got balls. Like, it was really fun to watch Brandon Ayuk the second half of last season. So hopefully he continues that this season and is really, he's getting close to his first big contract. So this is when, guys really tend to step up and really play well and play hard the entire season. So look for a huge season from Brandon Ayuk this year. Yeah,
I agree. And I'm going to throw you a little curveball here. Let's say that a couple of years down the road, they have to make a choice between Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. Who are you, Mr. Price is Right, that's willing to bet big, and you're in the finale, you're in the showcase. Who are you keeping between Ayuk and Deebo Samuel?
That's a tough call because we've seen Deebo Samuel be basically, his 2021 season, he was the best player in football. Yeah. That was just incredible to watch. And then you watch him last year and his numbers were almost halved, right? So it's like, which Deebo are we going to get? If I have to make that decision in a couple of years, well, I'm going to be paying close attention to how much work Deebo's putting in. He got paid and all of a sudden, he wasn't quite as good this year. Or last year. So that's a big one. But when it comes to just pure wide receiving skill, that's hard too, because that season for Deebo before he came a wide back, like, he was just on fire as a wide receiver. Like, he was looking amazing. And then they needed him to kind of play running back. And so he did. So it's a tough call for me. If I had to make that decision right now, I'd probably still go with Deebo Samuel just because, it's still so fresh in my mind what he did in 2021. And there's just not really any other player in the NFL that's like him.
Yeah, those routes that Ayuk runs, though, they're so smooth, and true. Like he's gliding when he has the ball.
He'll go up and get it too, which is a lot of fun to watch too. Yeah. He's got some good ups.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Deommodore Lenoir. Is there another young player that you're really excited about?
Yes. So even before OTA started and people started reporting, I was talking on the Locked On 49er podcast a lot about Drake Jackson, and now he's going to get every opportunity opposite Nick Bosa to really start and play a lot of snap times. And then he showed up and he's like, I put on a bunch of muscle. It's just like, whoa, Drake Jackson's taking it serious. Like, he's making me look good. So I'm going to keep my money on the Drake Jackson table and just kind of hope that I can ride that, to 10 or 12 sacks this season, because he's going to get a lot of single coverage when you're playing opposite Nick Bosa. So hopefully, hopefully Wilkes can come in and really get the most out of him. That's a huge addition too for the 49ers. That whole, you've lost your defensive coordinators the last couple of years, right? And all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're like, oh, wait, Wilkes is available? Bring him in. Like, I thought he should have got the head coaching job for Carolina. So I was shocked when they let him go, and then even more excited when the 49ers locked him up as defensive coordinator. So, give me Drake Jackson all day long.
All right. So let me ask you this. I think that the team currently is better than they were this time last year. Are they? Well, let's say quarterback aside. If Brock Purdy comes back healthy, then I definitely think that they're better than they were at this time last year. Are they as good right now as they were going into the NFC Championship game when Brock Purdy was still healthy?
That's a tough call, right? Because you have a little bit of a reworked offensive line, right? So you did lose McGlinchey, who was, to all his credit, he got bashed a lot in his pass protection, but he was one of the best run blockers in the NFL. So that's going to definitely hurt that 49ers run game a little bit. So that to me is a step back, right? But now, what'd you add? Right? You added a fantastic defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, who else did the 49ers really go and add to make your team better? Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
got some cool young guys that are big question marks. But you had McCaffrey then. You still had Ayuk, you had Debo, you had Kittle. Like, you had a healthy Brock Purdy going into that game. So for me, it really, are they better than they were? I don't know if they're better than they were. I think you could say that they're about even because they lost a big offensive tackle, but they got a big defensive tackle. So
Yeah.
it's like they got a little bit better on one side of the ball, but a little bit worse on the other. So to me, it seems like they're pretty close to the same team that they were, which is a fantastic team. I mean, you're talking about a team that went to the NFC Championship game. So I really look forward to see what they do at that right tackle spot. Is it going to be someone they already have in camp? They've said it's going to be, but who knows what's going to happen between now
Yeah.
and early September.
Yeah, you're right. It is hard to say if they're as good right now as they were going into the NFC Championship game. I think that what they added in Javon Hargrave is bigger than what they lost in Mike McGlinchey. But, we're kind of in that place with Colton McKivitz that we were last year when,
Right.
we're asking, with Banks, Brendel, and Burford in the middle, there was a little bit of trepidation. What are these guys going to be like? They turned out to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Thanks,
look
especially,
at
yeah.
and Colton McKivitz. I don't remember where I heard this, but I probably ought to be writing these things down so I can give people credit. But what I read was that while McKivitz doesn't grade as well in the running game as McGlinchey, he grades better in pass protection than McGlinchey. So while he may not bring as much, when they run the ball, it's possible that he could be an upgrade in pass protection. So I don't know if that's going to be the case. I mean, he did start a game. What was that in 2021?
Yeah,
I think he started a game when McGlinchey was hurt, or when I can't remember if it was for McGlinchey.
And he played okay.
Yeah, or Trent Williams. I don't remember who he
yeah,
played
I think it was
for.
Williams, yeah.
Yeah, and he wasn't bad. Yeah.
So hopefully he figures it out, and they say he's going to get every opportunity to be there and not have to look over his shoulder. So with confidence, sometimes you can get production. So hopefully that is the case when it comes to McKivitz.
Yeah. Here's my last question. What are your concerns as the team takes the summer off and prepares to go into training camp? What are your concerns? Obviously quarterback, because we don't know what's going to happen there. But beyond that, is there something that you're concerned about with this team?
Yeah, I mean, if we're not going to talk quarterback, then we've kind of already covered the offensive line. I kind of already covered the secondary as well, but maybe another part in that secondary in the nickel spot, right? I mean, I think it's Womack's job to lose at this moment, but who knows? I mean, they brought in a whole bunch of guys to compete for that nickel spot, but that's a huge one. I mean, you play, in the NFC West where you got to deal with Cooper Kupp twice a year. There's a lot of great slot receivers out there that nickel guy's going to need to cover. So to me, that's going to be one of the areas I'm really focused on here in camp. Is really who's out there, who's taking the nickel coverage, who looks good, who's fast, who's quick, who can get their hands on the guy, and redirect their routes, because those slots, that's all about quick, right? It's about slants, it's about outs, it's about comebacks, it's about how quick you can get open. So who on the 49ers can cover guys like that? That to me, I think is my biggest question mark heading into the season.
Well, you mentioned quarterback. What is it with the quarterback that makes you the most concerned? Is it Brock Purdy's injury, or is there something different?
Yeah, obviously it's the injury. It's Trey Lance's history of injuries. It's the 49ers history of injuries, the Jimmy Garoppolo days. So it's I mean, and quarterback's the most important position probably in all the sports. So if you don't have a healthy quarterback, as the 49ers showed in the NFC Championship game, you're not going to win anything. So to me, that is obviously the biggest question for the 49ers overall, is who's going to start and who should start and who should be patient and who should sit back. And, is it Purdy? Do you not throw Trey Lance out there week one because Purdy is ready to go and you feel confident that he is the leader of your football team, which by all accounts, the 49ers are saying he is. They're saying this is our guy, no matter what. Like, where Purdy's ready to go, he's under center. So I can't wait. I'm really so excited, Mark. I know we're still a few months away, but every day gets a little bit closer, I just get a little bit more excited.
No, same here. Hey, Nick, tell us where we can find you, where we can hear you.
Yeah, App Area Wink on Twitter, or every Wednesday I do Winky Wednesdays on Locked On 49ers. Check it out, Brian and Eric, they're the man. And if you don't listen to them, you're not subscribed to them, what are you doing with your life? Come
Right. Right. Yeah, go check out the Locked On 49ers podcast, which you probably already are. And so you probably watch or hear Nick every single Wednesday when he's on with them. And while you're at it, check out the 49ers Camelot show. Make sure to rate, review, and follow the show so that we can continue bringing incredible guests like this. Nick, thanks. This was so much fun.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me, man. Keep up the great work.
I'm going to do my best, and you do the same, man. Great to have you. Great to talk to you.